Hey everybody, it's me, Sven Sharpen here, bringing you day number 136 of Let's Talk About Autism. Before we get started, I'd love you to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below the video. That would help me out tremendously. So, today's video is about something I've been putting off for quite a long time in this series because most of the existing autistic movement already talks about it, even though they aren't really doing enough about it. It's about ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis, what it is, who's behind it, who's paying for it, and a solution. So, ABA was created by some psychologists like 60 years ago who thought that being neurodivergent, or at the time known as mentally retarded, was like the worst thing in the world. You couldn't be diagnosed with autism without having to go through this program. And so they thought this was the worst thing ever. And back then, those were the only kids being diagnosed. The only kids being diagnosed actually had severe disabilities that they couldn't do anything on their own. And so the idea was to force neurodivergent kids, then mentally retarded, neurodivergent kids were forced into complying with what the society thinks a child should act like or who a child should be. And it involves things like forced eye contact. You can't style yourself a certain way. You can't like a certain thing. You certainly don't have any freedom. You're basically a slave, and you just can't ever do anything. And ultimately what happens is you end up creating a person that can't do anything for themselves because they were never taught to do that. And there are serious barbaric practices like electric shock, physical beatings, verbal assault, potentially even worse. I've heard things like kids being tied to radiators. Those techniques are a little old and outdated, but it's still happening to this day. The electric shock, I think, does still happen today. And many of the others still happen today in these programs. And well, ABA, we know what it is, and we know who started it, some crazy psychologists, and parents are often coerced into thinking that this is something helpful, something useful that'll have their child actually grow up in a society that thinks they won't. So a parent pays a large amount of money, I'd imagine this is probably a quite expensive thing, and their kid goes in, and they don't see their kid for hours and hours for like a long time, and ultimately what happens is their kid never learns how to actually develop. They don't socialize, they can't do anything on their own because I went into one of these and it's a dark room. Some of them have bright lights, the hallways are dark, most of the rooms have no windows, and the door to get in or out is locked shut. Like, you cannot leave, you cannot come in. Might as well be North Korea. So you can't get in or out, and kids are stuck in there, and the parents have no clue what is going on in there. And as a result, you end up having a child that just says things like, hello, how are you, what's up, out of context without ever learning when to use those terms. So it's a really tragic situation where a child never actually develops, and what happens is the scenario they think they're trying to avoid. And today, like, when autistic people talk about it, it's always in the context of conversion therapy, LGBT conversion therapy, which is already banned. You should know that. ABA is still hanging around. We should be asking, why is conversion therapy banned but not ABA? And I'll make a whole video about banning ABA later. But the reason ABA is still hanging around today is because it is a very profitable industry. ABA, in fact, is only a very small part of a much larger industry that I call the special needs industry. I'll go into the entire special needs industry in a full video later. But ABA, all on its own, is a $2.5 billion a year industry for the special needs industry. All on its own, not to mention all the rest of the stuff the special needs industry does. ABA is $2.5 billion a year. That's a huge moneymaker. And to pay for this, not only do they take large amounts of money from parents that they manipulate, but I'm pretty sure government taxpayer dollars are also going to fund this craziness, this torturous practice that I call slavery. It's basically slavery. ABA slavery. That's what it is. I'm going to call it slavery. And this practice and the people involved with it, like the industry, the medical cartel that owns it, that practices it, that makes billions off of it, largely owns the Democrat politicians and Democrat Party that claim to be against this, and they pay huge amounts of money to politicians and crazy activists who think that stuff like this is okay, and to fulfill a political agenda of total control. That's really what it comes down to, is total control. And ABA is no different from this. So that's what's going on, and I'll be talking about this a little bit in the next couple of videos, but ABA is a tragic thing. We got to get rid of it. And the way we're going to do that is to get the stories out of those who have gone through it. Those whose parents, like parents of kids who have gone through it. Like, we got to get the stories out. We've already heard some of it. We got to know what it's like today. We got to get the stories out. We got to have a movement where we can share this stuff. And, you should know by now, if you watched all my other videos, that's why I make these videos. So that's what we need to do. We got to investigate it. We got to go after it. We got to boycott it. We got to find out what connections they have, And this is a good company, they're not good, but an example of a company that provides this is Behavioral Innovations. They call it behavioral care. They have locations all over the country, and this is like a global issue too. Like, no matter where in the world you are, this is going to exist. So we got to go after it. We got to shut it down. We got to share the stories of those who have been through it, the severe effects of it, and we got to get rid of it. This has got to go. A free country should never have a practice like this. And much like slavery 200 years ago, there's going to be a lot of pushback, but ultimately this thing has got to go. So yeah, that was day 136. I'll see you on day 137. Thank you very much for watching this video if you made it this far, and God bless you. Goodbye.